The sun rose over Belmont like it always did, until the call came in. At 6:42 a.m., a maintenance worker radioed the HOA front office. He'd found a body in the community pool, floating face down, unmoving. The dispatcher didn't react at first. These things were rare here. Accidents, sure. Teenagers sneaking in at night. But this was different. By 6:53, paramedics had arrived. The girl was pulled from the water. No signs of life. The coroner marked time of death as approximate. Between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock a.m., she had no bruises, no broken bones. Just water in the lungs. A clean case, by the book. Her name was Maya Briggs, 16, straight a student, black, lived 3 streets down with her parents, Darnell and Simone. They got the call at 7:11 a.m. Darnell answered. He didn't speak. Just stood there, holding the phone. Simone took it from him and listened without blinking. Then she walked to the sink, turned off the tap, and sat on the floor. The HOA issued a one-line email to residents by 8:30. There was an incident at the community pool this morning. Law enforcement has concluded the area is now safe. But Maya's smartwatch, recovered by paramedics, told a different story. Its biometric data logged a sudden spike in heart rate just after 4:08 a.m. Erratic motion followed, then stillness. The panic alert had triggered, and no one had seen it. Officer Chad Reilly filed the incident report at 9:12 a.m. But the report itself, it was timestamped 9:54. Short, 3 paragraphs. No mention of the smartwatch. And from that moment on, the official version was locked in. Accidental drowning. Case closed. By noon, the community had gone back to normal. Kids biked past the pool entrance. Retirees returned to their morning laps. A sign reading pool closed for cleaning hung loosely from the gate. There was no yellow tape. No visible investigation. No one asking questions out loud. When Simone asked the HOA for surveillance footage, they told her the camera system had been under maintenance that week. Power cycling issues, they said. Footage from the night of Maya's death didn't exist. She asked if anyone saw her daughter enter the pool area. They said no. Maya had lived in that neighborhood for over 10 years. People knew her face. They waved when she walked past. But now, when it mattered, no one had seen anything. Darnell tried the houses closest to the pool. Door to door. One man said he was out of town. Another said he slept with a sound machine. Didn't hear a thing. A woman said she thought she heard splashing around 4 a.m., but couldn't be sure it wasn't just a sprinkler. All of it sounded rehearsed, flat, measured. Then came something worse. Maya's phone was found later that afternoon, not with her body, not near the pool, but inside a neighborhood trash bin near a small park. It was clean. No fingerprints. No passcode. The entire device had been factory reset. A teenage lifeguard named Jordan, who had worked the pool the previous summer, saw the report online and sent Simone a quiet DM. I wasn't there, but I saw her walk in. She wasn't alone. She replied. He never wrote back. The official autopsy was released 3 days later. The report was clinical. Maya Briggs, female, 16, healthy, no intoxicants in her system. Cause of death, asphyxiation due to drowning. It listed no external trauma. No signs of struggle. No defensive wounds. Just water in the lungs and time of death consistent with early morning hours. But buried on page 3, under secondary observations, was a single line. Small contusion and subcranial hairline fracture located behind right ear. Non-lethal. Possibly caused by impact against pool surface or edge. Simone flagged it immediately. A fall can cause that, but a push can too. The city medical examiner said it didn't change the ruling. The injury was minor. Accidental contact, he said. Not uncommon in drowning cases. But the biomechanics didn't sit right with Simone. Not with the data from Maya's smartwatch. That panic spike didn't align with a slip. It spiked before entry, not during. And the motion data, shaking, stopping, sharp changes in direction, suggested something was chasing her. or someone. Simone requested an independent pathologist. The city denied funding, so she found one herself, a retired coroner out of Oakland, who agreed to review the report for free. Meanwhile, the HOA sent a formal letter to the Briggs family, legal sounding, carefully worded. We advise against the spread of speculative or defamatory claims regarding the circumstances of the incident. Continued public insinuation may result in civil recourse. That same afternoon, a neighbor, not someone the family knew well, approached Darnell while he was unloading groceries. He didn't say hello, didn't ask how they were holding up. He just said, "You didn't hear it from me, but someone else has footage. Lot 11, backyard cam." Then he walked away. Lot 11 had been listed for sale 2 weeks ago. It was empty now, locked, windows covered. According to the property manager, the security system had never been installed. But Simone didn't believe that. Not for a second. Simone knocked on the door of Lot 11 twice before realizing no one was going to answer. The windows were papered over from the inside. A 4SALO sign still leaned in the front lawn, half shadowed by a dying palm tree. She walked the perimeter slowly. No camera on the front porch. But around back, just under the patio awning, a mount. Empty bracket. No camera attached. Inside the HOA office, no one could confirm whether Lot 11 ever had a surveillance system installed. The property manager said he wasn't authorized to comment on individual unit security. When Simone asked who was, she was given a card with an email. Generic, no name attached. Just the email. Later that night, she sent 3 questions. Was a camera installed on Lot 11? If so, who removed it? And why wasn't that footage logged? She received no reply. The next morning, the HOA sent an all-residents bulletin titled Community Unity Reminder. It spoke about rumors, respect, and privacy, about not jumping to conclusions, about trusting the process. What it didn't mention was Maya. Not once. Darnell tried to request pool maintenance logs from the HOA, technician entries, gate unlocks, anything time-stamped. He was told those were not available for public viewing due to property management policy. That same day, Simone found 2 meeting minutes missing from the HOA archive, one from 5 weeks before Maya's death, the other from just after. The digital records skipped over them. The public file simply went from March 4 to March 18. No explanation. Later that evening, a brown envelope was slid under their door. No name. No handwriting. Just a single sheet inside with 6 printed words in all caps. The cameras weren't the only thing. The next morning, Simone drove across town to meet someone she never expected to hear from again. Angela Boone, a former Belmont Grove HOA board member who'd resigned the previous year without public reason. Angela didn't ask for payment. She didn't want to be recorded. But she did agree to talk. She said Maya's case wasn't the first to cause unrest behind closed doors. A year ago, a black resident filed a formal complaint after repeated harassment from a neighbor, slurs, petty fines, unannounced HOA inspections. Angela said she had pushed to investigate it, but the board voted to dismiss the claim due to lack of substantial evidence. 3 months later, that family quietly moved out. Their house was sold. Their names were never mentioned again. Angela had tried to keep records of what was discussed at internal meetings, but she wasn't allowed to keep copies. Everything stayed on the shared HOA drive, which only executive members could access. Simone asked why she didn't go public back then. Angela answered without flinching. Because I was told, if I made trouble, someone would find a way to paint me as unstable. Back at home, Simone pulled up the HOA's online archive again. She went line by line through board meeting summaries. One line from 6 months ago stood out. Resident concerns over facility access and minor loitering near pool resolved. No board action necessary. It didn't name anyone, but the date lined up with one of Maya's old texts. A message to her mother where she mentioned a white neighbor accusing her of lingering too long at the pool gate after hours. She'd laughed it off at the time. Now it didn't feel so harmless. Meanwhile, Darnell received a forwarded email leak from a community activist. Messages between two HOA board members discussing how to contain speculation and limit exposure. One line stood out. "We have to keep this from becoming a race thing." The smartwatch had been sitting in an evidence box for 5 days before anyone touched it. Simone had asked about it twice. The police logged it, acknowledged it, then said they'd circle back. They didn't. So Lena Reyes, a civil rights attorney recently brought in by Simone, filed for access. It took 36 hours and a lot of pressure, but the data was finally released. She brought in a private forensic technician to help extract it properly. The biometric log was clear. At 4:08 a.m., Maya's heart rate spiked from resting to 163 BPM in under 12 seconds. Erratic accelerometer data followed. Sharp turns, heavy impact movement, then stillness. No dive. No jump. The pattern didn't match any recreational motion. It matched flight. The panic trigger, a pressure-activated SOS gesture on the watch, had been activated. It was programmed to alert her emergency contact. It didn't send. The watch had lost connection. According to the technician, either it was disabled, jammed, or never synced properly, but more likely, the signal had been blocked. Lena compiled a report. Time-stamped data, graphs, intervals. It was simple. Scientific. No room for interpretation. She brought it to the local detective assigned to Maya's case. He flipped through it in silence, closed the folder, and said, "This doesn't change anything. That data isn't enough to prove a crime occurred." No follow-up, no statement, just dismissal. But Simone had already anticipated that. She gave a copy of the data to a small but reputable journalist who had been covering local civil disputes for years. No major outlet. Just someone honest enough to print it straight. The article went live that evening. Title: Maya Briggs' smartwatch logged panic moments before death. Authorities call it irrelevant. The message came in at 2:17 a.m. Just a few words, sent from a throwaway Instagram account. "Can we talk? I saw her that night." It was signed, Jordan. Jordan Simmons, 17, high school senior. He'd worked summers as a lifeguard at the Belmont Grove pool. Maya knew him. Not well, but well enough to wave. Simone met him 2 days later, at a bench behind a local library. No cameras, no press, just his story. He said he wasn't supposed to be at the pool that night, but he was. He'd gone back after hours to meet up with someone. Saw Maya enter through the side gate. Said she looked nervous. Not lost. Just looking for someone. He was about to call out to her when he saw another figure follow behind. A boy. Older than Maya, maybe a year or two. White. Tan hoodie. Jordan had seen him around the neighborhood before, but didn't know his name. They argued. Quiet at first, then louder. He couldn't hear the words. Just the tone. Strained, heated. Jordan stepped back, unsure if he should interrupt. Then Maya moved fast, turned, tried to walk away. That's when the boy reached for her. Jordan said he froze. It happened too fast. There was a splash. Not the kind you hear in movies. Just one flat sound, like something heavy hitting still water. Then silence. He waited. 10 seconds. Then 30. Then a minute. He never saw her come back up. And he never told anyone. Not until now. He said the next morning, the HOA called his father. Told him Jordan might be mentioned in some witness logs. Told him not to panic, just to keep quiet. They said everything was handled internally. Jordan was pulled from his school classes that week. His parents stopped letting him out after 6 p.m. He said he wanted to come forward earlier, but he didn't know how. Simone asked him one question. "Do you remember the boy's face?" He nodded once. "Yeah, and I've seen him since." The article dropped at 7:04 a.m. Headline: Teen witness says Maya Briggs wasn't alone. HOA warned family to stay quiet. It wasn't from a major outlet, just a small digital publication, written by local journalist Nadia Trask. She had been following the case quietly, waiting for something solid. Jordan's statement was it. The piece included snippets of smartwatch data, time matched with Jordan's timeline, and anonymized references to the HOO's internal communication. Within hours, it started spreading. First community groups, then local activists, then the state press. By noon, there were people outside the Belmont Grove gates. Not many, but enough to be noticed. Holding signs, asking questions, chanting Maya's name. The HOA released a 2-paragraph statement through their legal team. It said the community had fully complied with all lawful inquiries, and that spreading unverified claims only deepens the tragedy. Simone didn't respond. She didn't have to. The images of protesters and the headline were doing the work. That night, a new thread appeared on a private neighborhood forum used by Belmont Grove residents. It wasn't subtle. Maya's family is bringing bad attention. Not everything is about race. They need to stop before someone else gets hurt. At 3:13 a.m., a rock was thrown through the Briggs' front window. No note. No witness. Just shattered glass and silence. The police filed it as vandalism. No follow-up. But Simone picked up the rock and held it in her hand for a long time before setting it on the counter. She didn't sweep up the glass. She wanted to remember exactly what silence looks like when it starts to shake. Jordan hadn't said a name, but he gave a face. Simone brought the description to Lena, who brought it to yearbook photos. It didn't take long. Belmont Grove wasn't a big place, and Maya's high school had one Tyler Winslow. 17. Junior. Lives 3 streets away from the Briggs family. Father is Paul Winslow, one of the HOA board members, and the man who signed off on the official pool closure report the morning Maya died. School records confirmed that Tyler and Maya shared an English class. No reports of conflict. No disciplinary action. Just 2 teenagers who, according to every adult around them, barely knew each other. But Maya's friends painted a different picture. She told 2 of them, separately, that Tyler had been messaging her for weeks. It started casual, then got pushy. He'd show up at the pool when she was there. One time, she left early just to avoid him. She never made a big deal of it. Didn't want to cause trouble. Simone passed the findings to the police. 3 hours later, the Winslow home went dark. A neighbor said a black SUV with tinted windows picked up the family and left just before sunset. Tyler was visiting relatives in Nevada, according to a single line in the HOA's next community update. No statement. No explanation. When Lena called the lead detective to ask why no one had brought Tyler in for questioning, she was told, "We can't assume criminal intent based on rumor. The family has retained counsel. We're respecting their rights." In Belmont Grove, the pool remained closed, but inside the community, people whispered about the Briggs family, saying they were stirring things up, making trouble, trying to ruin lives. And Tyler? He wasn't answering messages. But his Instagram showed him hiking through red rocks under clear desert skies. No captions, just a silence that felt intentional. It came from a veteran who didn't trust anyone. James Callahan, 62, had lived in Belmont Grove for over a decade. Retired Army, kept to himself, the kind of man people nodded to but didn't know. 2 nights after the protests started, he walked into Lena Ria's office with a hard drive in a Ziploc bag. No lawyer. No warning. Just handed it over and said, "I fly drones. I was testing a thermal one that night. Didn't know what I caught until after." The footage wasn't cinematic. It was angled from above, recorded at 4:07 a.m. A grainy aerial view of the Belmont Grove pool, taken from over the fence line. It showed 2 figures, one standing, one moving fast, the smaller figure, Maya, running, the other following. There was no audio, no facial detail, just body shapes, but the timing matched the panic spike on her smartwatch almost to the second. Then came the splash. The pursuer backed away, then disappeared behind the trees. It wasn't proof of intent, not legally, but it proved Maya wasn't alone. It proved she wasn't just a girl sneaking a late swim. Lena turned the footage over to the state attorney's office within hours. The next day, someone leaked it. It hit the news cycle hard, Every outlet had a headline. Drone footage suggests Maya Briggs was chased before death. The HOA issued a statement calling it unauthorized surveillance and questioned its validity. The Winslow family said nothing. But the community shifted. The signs outside the gate doubled. Activists started calling for a grand jury. The mayor gave a speech. Local politicians posted support messages they hadn't written themselves. At home, Simone played the footage on loop, not because she wanted to see it, but because she needed to understand the moment it all changed, when fear turned into finality. 2 days after the drone footage went public, Maya's case was reopened, quietly, without a press release. Just a note in the internal system marked Status Update, Reevaluation in Progress. That same night, Simone got a call from a blocked number. The voice was male. Calm. Brief. Check the supervisor log edits. The first officer report was altered. Then he hung up. Lena filed an immediate legal request for internal access logs related to Officer Chad Riley's initial report, the one filed the morning Maya was found. It took 3 days, 2 formal complaints, and a court order. The logs told the story. The original report was filed at 9:12 a.m. It was reopened at 10:03 a.m. Revisions made by Supervisor R. Candler. 3 sentences were changed, including one that originally mentioned visible signs of trauma behind the victim's ear. That line was deleted. The person who made the changes, Lieutenant Robert Candler, was a 22-year department veteran, known for playing things by the book. He also happened to live 5 houses down from the Winslow family. When Lena confronted the department, they said Candler was on medical leave and unavailable for comment. Simone wasn't surprised. She'd seen this before, just never this close. That weekend, a separate file leaked to a mid-level reporter. Not from Lena, not from Jordan, from someone else inside. The file was a photo, a scanned HOA internal memo from 2 days after Maya's death. It read, "Avoid public acknowledgement of conflict or incident involving minors. Emphasize community unity. Downplay narrative drift." No one signed it, but 3 board members resigned the day it surfaced. Tyler Winslow didn't speak to the police. He spoke through his lawyer. The interview was held at a neutral office. No recording. Just a court reporter, 2 investigators, and Tyler sitting with perfect posture across the table. His face calm. Detached. Not defensive. Rehearsed. He confirmed being at the pool the night Maya died. He said they'd been texting. That she invited him to talk, said she wanted to clear the air. He called it a private conversation. Said she got upset. Said she misunderstood something he said. Then she turned, walked away, slipped. That was it. He said he panicked. Didn't check her pulse. Didn't call for help. Just left. When asked why he never came forward, he said, "I didn't want to make it worse." His lawyer interrupted before they could ask what worse meant. The statement was enough to trigger a charge, involuntary manslaughter, based on failure to seek aid and knowingly fleeing the scene of a death. No murder charge. No intent required. Just neglect. Forensics re-examined his phone. Deleted texts were recovered. The tone was aggressive, demanding. Some of that Maya never replied to. Photos taken the week after her death showed small scratches on Tyler's forearm. He claimed they were from hiking. Investigators didn't press it. The wounds had faded. Behind the scenes, a deal was struck. Tyler would plead guilty to negligent homicide. No trial. Sealed records. No prison time. Probation. Relocation. Therapy. Community service. The Briggs family wasn't consulted until after it was finalized. Lena called it a soft exit. Simone called it what it was. A quiet favor dressed up as accountability. The headlines said justice was served. Teen pleads guilty in Maya Briggs' case. No prison time, but closure for family. That word, closure, got repeated across networks, printed in statements, inserted into editorials. But no one who knew Maya used it. Tyler Winslow was sentenced to 18 months of probation, 500 hours of community service, and mandatory therapy. His records were sealed. He would be relocated out of state with a new identity for safety reasons. The HOA issued a public statement 2 days later, expressing sympathy and announcing the resignation of several board members. No apology, no ownership, just reshuffling. They also confirmed a civil settlement with the Briggs family. Confidential terms, private agreement. The amount wasn't disclosed, but it was enough to make news, not enough to change anything. The detective who altered the original report, Robert Candler, resigned before Internal Affairs could finish the review. His pension remained untouched. No one else was charged. The department launched a review of policy. The city issued a one-page press release outlining new training protocols for youth-involved incidents. The changes were real, but shallow, cosmetic, enough to be mentioned in a campaign speech. Lena Reyes held a final press conference on the courthouse steps. She didn't name names. She just read one sentence from the case file. Evidence suggests the victim may have been in distress prior to entering the pool. That was the sentence they'd tried to erase. Darnell didn't attend the conference. He'd stopped going to meetings, calls, interviews. The justice they were offered felt more like paperwork, neat, filed, and distant from the truth. Simone didn't stop. She was already planning something else. But for now, the case was closed. Not solved. Just closed. The house stayed quiet for weeks after the sentencing. No reporters. No protesters. No police. Just mail piling up and a silence that stretched into the corners of every room. The shattered window had been replaced, but the outline of the break still showed faintly in the trim. Darnell barely spoke to anyone. He stopped returning calls, stopped checking the news, spent his mornings sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the chair Maya used to sit in for breakfast. He hadn't touched her room since the day she left. Simone moved differently. She started attending council meetings, quietly at first, just watching, then speaking, then organizing. Within 3 months, she had registered a nonprofit, the Briggs Initiative, focused on youth advocacy, digital evidence rights, and community oversight in private neighborhoods. She said it wasn't about revenge. It was about making sure next time someone paid attention sooner. Jordan returned to school, quiet, head down. He didn't talk about Maya, but he kept a copy of her photo in his locker, taped behind a row of books. Nobody asked why. Nobody needed to. The Winslows sold their house. The listing went up fast. No open houses, no showings, just a sold sign and silence. Their name was removed from the HOA board roster without comment. The community pool remained closed. Officially, it was for long-term repairs. But everyone knew it was something else. It became a quiet symbol, not of what happened, but of what they didn't want to talk about anymore. Life moved on, but not back. There were no statues, no memorial plaques, no streets renamed. But Maya's name didn't disappear. The Briggs Initiative gained quiet traction, not viral, not political, just steady. One policy memo at a time, one training program, one school district changing how emergency data from wearable devices was handled. It wasn't reform, but it was something. Her smartwatch data was anonymized and included in a federal training module for juvenile safety evidence. Thousands of officers would see her panic spike in simulation exercises without ever knowing her name. But some would. A short documentary aired on public access months later. No narration, just interviews, footage, screenshots of court files, audio transcripts, and a still shot of the drone video, frozen at the frame where Maya runs. At the end, Simone's voice plays over black screen. My daughter didn't drown. She didn't fall. She didn't slip. She was pushed, and they tried to bury her twice. Once in water, once in silence. The last image is her smartwatch screen. The panic pulse. The timestamp. The flatline. Proof.